It's insane what desperation can drive someone to do. I never thought I'd be one of those people willing to risk everything for a little bit of money, but here I am. My daughter Lila needed life-saving medical treatment, and my desperation led me straight into the jaws of something far darker than I could have imagined. Now, every day feels like walking through a nightmare where death lurks around every corner. I had no other choice. A loan wasn't an option, and the insurance company refused to cover her treatment. My job barely paid above minimum wage, but I still needed close to 10 grand. To save her, I figured I'd need another job, one working nights so I could save enough quickly. Losing her mom in a car crash a year ago left Lila as my whole world. There was no way I could lose her too. I scoured the classifieds and drove around town looking for opportunities. It seemed impossible until luck, or maybe bad luck, led me to a small grocery store about a mile away. The place was called Kane's Nighttime Convenience and Grocery. It was odd because it stayed closed during the day and only opened around 8 p.m., closing sometime before dawn. Its strange hours made me wonder why anyone would shop there when there were 24-hour chains nearby. But desperate times call for desperate measures. It was a store, I needed work, and the schedule aligned perfectly with what I needed. So, I decided to check it out. After finishing my shift at my day job, my friend Kathy agreed to watch Lila while I worked and even said she'd help if I found a graveyard shift elsewhere for a month or two. Since I'd seen the peculiar shop and its hours, I figured it was worth asking about a job. At first, I hesitated, thinking they might be up to something shady by only being open at night. But given my limited skills and desperate circumstances, it seemed like my best shot. When I arrived, the building looked run down but still had signage advertising sales and clearance items. The somewhat normal appearance of a grocery store put me slightly at ease as I stepped inside. As I got closer, I noticed a mark under the first part of the store name, Kane's. It looked like Japanese kanji. Once inside, the place felt deceptively large compared to how small it appeared from the outside. There were aisles filled with groceries, household supplies, and even clothing racks. Most shoppers seemed fairly ordinary at first glance, though there were some individuals who clearly preferred shopping at night. One guy gave me a murderous glare when I accidentally stared at him too long. The staff also looked similar to any other store's employees, diverse, not overly cheerful or sullen. However, I did notice there wasn't much talking near the checkout areas. Something about their silence unnerved me, but I pushed it aside. Moving toward the front, I spotted a sign that read, "Help Wanted." Feeling hopeful, I approached the back office to knock when a large man wearing a blue apron and a name tag identifying him as store manager, Vince, greeted me with a pleasant yet forced smile. "Hello. Can I help you find something today?" he asked, though his expression suggested otherwise. "I'm actually looking to apply for a job here," I replied, pointing to the Help Wanted sign. Vince stopped smiling, glanced at the sign, and seemed ready to say something before holding up a finger and pulling out a radio. "Samantha, what's the bagger situation today? How are we holding up staffing-wise?" There was no immediate response. He smiled again in that disturbing way while drumming his fingers along his tie as he awaited a reply. His face wrinkled, and he stated, "I'm sorry, but I think we're fully staffed right now. Thanks for your interest." He started ushering me away, but then his radio crackled to life. A static-filled voice came through, saying something garbled, but I caught bits like, "Chris, caught, problem, and got bagged." Before I could process what I heard, Vince muttered, "Alright, but next time answer faster. If it's a code black and you mess around with those customers, it's your ass next." Awkward silence followed as he turned around, his frustrated demeanor vanishing instantly, replaced by another fake smile. Loudly, he declared, "Congratulations. There's an opening available now. Let's get you set up. Can you start tonight?" "Right now, as in tonight?" I asked, Thoroughly surprised they wanted me to begin immediately without any application or vetting process. Yes, right now. Don't worry, we can handle the legal stuff later. Tonight, we're busier than usual and could use the help. First, let's discuss terms and some mandatory paperwork. I wasn't sure what he meant, but figured it might involve salary negotiations. Sure, what's the pay and benefits? I knew asking up front was tacky, but I desperately needed the money, and Lila couldn't afford for me to get taken advantage of. $40 an hour for baggers, which is usually where new hires start, he replied. I almost gasped. It was crazy for a grocery store bagger. Seeing my surprise, Vince held up a hand, cutting off my next question. We value hard work and integrity here, along with just a bit of discretion. He laughed aloud and slapped his knee. But seriously, there's a non-disclosure agreement you'll need to sign with the paperwork. The mention of discretion and an NDA seemed weird, but double my current wage was hard to pass up. This was my miracle. I'd earn enough in about a month working here and my day job to afford Lila's treatment. Without hesitation, I accepted the offer. Great decision. Welcome to the Kane family. Gus. Get out here and get our new hire an apron and start with the basic version of bagger training. An unpleasant-looking older man emerged from the backroom, holding an apron and walking with an odd gait, possibly due to a past injury. I forced a smile and introduced myself, but Gus didn't reciprocate. Instead, he glared at me, snorted derisively, and asked humorlessly. You know bag gin, fella? Bag gin? Like bagging groceries? I clarified. He glared again, nodding silently. Well, yeah, I mean I've got a general idea. Never worked in a grocery store before, but I think I know how things should be bagged. He paused for an uncomfortably long time, making me want to speak again, but then he snorted and let out a dry, throaty laugh followed by a coughing fit. Once recovered, he said. Not like this, I reckon you don't. Alright, come on. I'll show you how we do bag gin and the other rules. Better listen close, I ain't repeating myself. We headed toward the back room when Gus's radio crackled to life. A nervous voice announced. Code black, repeat code black. Gus's face twisted in annoyance. Damn it all, more of them fellas already. He stormed off, shouting incomprehensible complaints into the walkie-talkie, leaving me near the back room unsure of what to do next. What was a code black? Why was everyone afraid of them? As I stood there, a hand touched my shoulder, and I turned to see a woman. Her shirt tag read Assistant Manager, Samantha. She smiled at me, appearing more genuine than others I'd met so far. I'm sorry we haven't met, you must be the new hire. I'm Samantha, the assistant manager. I can help you with training and orientation. You can be a great asset here at Kane's. She gestured toward the backroom doors and led me inside. Rows of freezers lined the walls, storing countless products. Nearby shelves held boxes and pallets of strange items like chemicals, metalworking gear, hardware, and crates marked with gun manufacturers' names. Again, I wondered exactly what kind of store this really was. Besides the odd inventory, it was messy, and I was glad I wouldn't have to sort through it. We entered an office painted oppressively bright blue, reminiscent of a kindergarten classroom. It reminded me of Lila's kindergarten days, strengthening my resolve to endure whatever challenges this job brought. The office was sparse, containing only a desk, chairs, and a file cabinet. On the walls, painted in black calligraphy-like characters, were more kanji symbols. Again, I wondered what they meant. Before I could ask, Samantha motioned for me to sit in one of the two chairs facing the desk. She sat opposite me, reviewing papers on a clipboard before rummaging through the file cabinet. Suddenly, a shriek echoed outside, startling me. Samantha didn't react, continuing her search. Thinking she hadn't heard it, I almost spoke up when she spun around with a large binder, slamming it onto the desk. "Before training begins, please fill out this form for both your safety and ours." She handed me a piece of paper detailing the non-disclosure agreement Vince mentioned earlier. Though signing this seemed odd, other hiring documents like tax, payroll, and healthcare weren't required beforehand. Considering they might pay under the table, I quickly signed without fully understanding what I was agreeing to or the consequences if I broke it. Samantha reviewed the paper, nodded, and said, "Good, that's settled. Let's get started. This is the employee handbook. We only have one copy, so you'll be doing some light reading for a bit. Since we need the manpower now, I'll go over it quickly since Gus is busy." She grimaced at the last word, checked her watch, and adjusted her walkie-talkie dial. Resuming, she explained, "As a bagger, you're crucial in ensuring customers leave satisfied with their purchases. You're often the last person they'll see before leaving, except in certain situations." Clearing her throat, she continued, "The basic rules and code of conduct are as follows. You must bag products according to customer satisfaction. Always ask customers what type of bags they prefer. Whatever they say goes regarding how items are bagged and which bags are used. Never question or discuss a customer's purchases, no matter how curious you may be or how talkative they seem. No questions, period. Understood?" She slammed her fist on the binder, startling me. I stammered. "Yeah, I mean yes, understood." "Good," she replied, moving on. "You cannot assist customers loading or unloading items into their vehicles. If a customer requests help, do not leave the building under any circumstances. If requests persist or you feel intimidated, press the yellow button at each checkout station. Security personnel will escort the offending customer to aisle 4 for processing and detainment." Wait, detainment? That seemed strange. She kept going before I could ask. "The most important rule, occasionally, there will be a special bag request. You'll know it when you hear it. If ordered, press the black button at the checkout and follow code Black Protocol. These guests are typically our highest-paying customers, often visiting at Mr. Kane's pleasure. They must be attended to promptly." Code Black again. What special bag was she referring to? Ignoring my growing concern, she pressed on. "No cell phones, smartwatches, or recording devices of any kind are allowed while on duty, for both our customers' sake and our own. The store closes at exactly 4 a.m. Any remaining customers will be escorted out, except those involved in a Code Black. Access to the basement and inventory backrooms is restricted to managers and stock employees only. Simple, right? Any questions?" she asked, flashing another smile. "Well, I did have a few questions about," she cut me off mid-sentence. "Great, I knew you looked like a fast learner. Come on, let's get you out to the checkouts and start bagging." She grabbed my shoulder firmly and pulled me back into the main store area. Customers glanced at me being dragged along, and some snickered, making me feel embarrassed. We stopped at a checkout labeled number 3, flickering faintly, while the other two were busy serving lines of customers. Samantha cleared her throat loudly to grab the attention of a young man with dirty blonde hair and an unimpressed expression. "Hello, Ethan. This is our new bagger. Show him the ropes and try to be easy on him, it's his first day. I know it's busy, but we don't need another Chris situation so soon. Have fun, you two." Without another word, she disappeared into the back room, leaving me alone with Ethan. Trying to break the ice, I began. "Hi, my name is—" "Save it," he interrupted sharply. "I don't want to get attached, just in case. I liked Chris, he was my friend, and now, well, it's best not to talk about what happened to him. Just do your job and follow the rules, and you should be fine." Not knowing how to respond, I walked up to the bagging station, gave him a mock salute, and tried to smile. It was going to be a long night. The night dragged on, and I quickly realized that Kane's wasn't just any ordinary grocery store. Every customer seemed more peculiar than the last, their purchases ranging from bizarre to downright sinister. Agnes, the elderly woman who initially seemed pleasant, turned out to be anything but when she revealed her darker side. Her request for help carrying groceries outside had been a thinly veiled threat, one that sent chills down my spine. Afterward, Ethan's warning about not engaging with certain customers stuck with me even more firmly. As the hours passed, the atmosphere grew heavier. Around midnight, Vince appeared again, walking through the aisles with an air of authority. He stopped near our checkout station, his gaze lingering on us briefly before moving on. It was clear something significant was happening tonight, something bigger than usual. Ethan muttered under his breath, "Mr. Kane might visit," confirming my suspicions. The mention of the owner filled me with unease. If this place operated as strangely as it did, then its leader must be someone equally unsettling. At around 11 o'clock, a large bald man approached our register. His demeanor was jovial at first, attempting small talk while loading items onto the conveyor belt. Junk food, lubricants, condoms, bleach, OxyClean, it was a strange combination, to say the least. Despite his attempts to engage me in conversation, I kept my responses short and professional, sticking strictly to the rules Samantha had drilled into me earlier. "Hey, you could definitely use a break," he said casually after finishing his transaction. "I've got a little pick-me-up in my car. Help me carry this stuff out, and I'll be your huckleberry." Alarm bells rang loud and clear in my head. No employee leaves the store with customers under any circumstances. Still, the man persisted, growing bolder with each passing second. Panic set in as he leaned closer, whispering promises of higher pay and opportunities elsewhere. Desperate to end the situation without escalating things further, I pressed the yellow button discreetly beneath the counter. Within moments, chaos erupted. A massive guard clad in riot gear emerged from seemingly nowhere, grabbing the man by the collar. Before anyone could react, the intruder was struck unconscious, bloodied, and dragged away. Another guard joined shortly after, securing the body and disposing of it efficiently. Throughout the ordeal, Vince stood nearby, watching calmly as though nothing unusual had occurred. Once the commotion subsided, Vince addressed me directly, his tone measured yet menacing. "I'm sorry you had to witness that, but I'm glad you're safe. We take threats seriously here. For everyone's safety, we keep this place secure from dangerous people." His words carried an implicit warning: keep quiet, or else. Though shaken, I managed to finish the rest of my shift. By 3 o'clock, only a handful of customers remained, most of whom completed their transactions swiftly and departed without incident. However, one final customer would change everything. A well-dressed man entered the store just before closing time, approaching checkout number 2 initially. When the scanner inexplicably malfunctioned, he redirected himself toward ours. Unlike previous patrons, there was an undeniable aura of confidence surrounding him, calculated, almost predatory. His basket contained sewing thread, thimbles, tailoring tools, hacksaws, plaster casts, nails, and rivets. At first glance, these items appeared innocuous enough, but paired with his unsettling presence, they took on a far darker meaning. Ethan scanned the items wordlessly, sweat beading on his forehead. The man tipped his hat politely, introducing himself as Thomas Grayson. "Good evening, my friend. My name is Thomas Grayson. I work for an antique clothier and am here for materials." Relieved momentarily, I asked, "What type of bag would you like today, Mr. Grayson?" His response froze me in place. "Well, my good fellow, paper seems suitable for the smaller items. Indeed, I've found all the tailoring kits necessary for quality work. But tonight, what I truly require is a body bag, preferably the larger variety." Time seemed to stand still. My heart pounded against my chest as realization dawned upon me: the truth behind the cryptic rules, the ominous warnings, the strange inventory downstairs. This wasn't just a grocery store, it was something far worse. Trembling, I pressed the black button under the counter, triggering a chain reaction throughout the store. Code black on number 3 crackled over the intercom system. Within seconds, Vince arrived, greeting Mr. Grayson warmly despite the tension hanging thick in the air. Their exchange was surreal, filled with dark humor and morbid undertones. "Oh, Vince, don't worry. I know what I asked for, and though you're a big fellow, I wouldn't dream of picking you, we go way back. Besides, your skin is terrible. Can you imagine one of our suits on you?" Mr. Grayson laughed, joined reluctantly by Vince. Turning to me, the man inspected me closely, his eyes calculating. "Your new employee, however, has a nice strong jaw and broad shoulders, not as much meat, though." My stomach churned violently. Was he evaluating me? For what purpose? Before I could dwell on the horrifying implications, Vince ushered us into the basement via a keycard-locked door. Descending into the dimly lit chamber, rows upon rows of body bags greeted me, each containing corpses in various stages of decomposition. The stench was overwhelming, but no one else seemed affected by it. Mr. Grayson moved methodically among the bodies, pinching cheeks and muttering disapprovals until settling on one particular individual. My, he's quite large. Plenty of material they'd love to use. Skin's a bit dry in places, but acceptable. Vince, old chap, you've got yourself a deal. Vince exhaled audibly, visibly relieved. As we ascended back upstairs, I caught sight of the selected body, a familiar face. The belligerent customer from earlier now lay lifeless inside a body bag, another victim of Kane's twisted enterprise. Why was he here? Why did it sound like he was purchased? Back in the main store area, an older man with piercing, unblinking eyes stepped forward. His demeanor was stern yet oddly comforting, as though trying to soften the blow of what I'd witnessed. Leaning close, he spoke softly, "I know you're unsettled by what you saw, but Shainu and its access are natural parts of life. What you witnessed is what we sell, in all forms. Even our name reflects this." He placed a hand on my shoulder before departing, leaving behind a chilling reminder, "Remember, you live on 4th Avenue, where the cherry tree blooms beautifully. Perhaps take your daughter to see it before it fades." Staring at the sign outside once more, I finally understood its true meaning. The kanji symbol beneath, Kane's, translated to death. All along, I'd been working at Death's nighttime convenience and grocery. That night marked the end of my tenure at Kane's. Resolving to find another way to make the money needed for Lila's treatment, I quit immediately. My family's safety mattered most now. How could it be safe when Death himself knows where we live? But questions lingered long after I walked away. Who exactly were Mr. Kane and Thomas Grayson? And how deep did this operation run? Most importantly, would they let me leave so easily? Only time would tell. For now, all I could do was protect my daughter and hope that whatever horrors lurked within those walls stayed confined there. After quitting Kane's, I tried to put the entire experience behind me. Every day, I reminded myself that Lila was worth any sacrifice, but the haunting memories of what I witnessed lingered like a shadow over my shoulder. The unsettling encounters with Mr. Grayson and Vince, the cryptic warnings from the older man, and the sight of those body bags filled with corpses, none of it left me. It wasn't just fear, it was guilt. Had I been complicit in something far worse than I realized? I threw myself into work at my day job, picking up extra shifts wherever possible. Kathy helped care for Lila while I worked late hours, her kindness a small beacon of light in an otherwise dark period. Within weeks, I managed to save enough money to cover her treatment. Relief washed over me as we scheduled the procedure, but even then, the weight of Kane still pressed heavily on my mind. A visit that changed everything. One evening, as I returned home after another grueling shift, a black sedan pulled up outside my house. My heart sank as two figures emerged, a tall, lean man with sharp features and piercing eyes, and a shorter woman whose presence radiated authority. They approached the door calmly, almost leisurely, yet their demeanor left no doubt about why they were here. "Good evening," the man greeted, his voice smooth but commanding. "We're looking for someone who recently left our employ." Before I could respond, the woman added, "You know exactly who we mean. We've come to discuss some unfinished business." Unsure how to react, I invited them inside, though every instinct screamed to run. Once seated in the living room, the man introduced himself as Marcus Kane, the owner of Kane's nighttime convenience and grocery. His name sent chills down my spine, confirming my worst fears. "I understand you've made significant progress toward covering your daughter's medical expenses," he began, his tone neutral but laced with underlying menace. "Congratulations on that. However, there are certain obligations you incurred during your time with us that remain unresolved." "Obligations? What obligations?" Panic surged through me as I struggled to comprehend what he meant. Before I could ask, the woman interjected, producing a folder filled with documents. "These records detail your involvement in several transactions while employed at our establishment," she explained, flipping through pages covered in signatures and timestamps. "As you may recall, signing the non-disclosure agreement bound you to confidentiality regarding all aspects of our operations. Unfortunately, recent developments suggest you've failed to uphold that commitment." "What are you talking about?" I stammered, shaking my head. "I haven't told anyone anything." Marcus leaned forward, his gaze locking onto mine. "Perhaps not directly. But actions speak louder than words, don't they? For instance, moving your family to a new address without informing us raises questions about your intentions. And let's not forget the curious inquiries you've made online about certain subjects." My stomach dropped as realization dawned. He knew about my research into the kanji symbol beneath Kane's. About my attempts to piece together the truth behind the store's sinister activities. How much did they know? More importantly, how far would they go to ensure silence? "You see," Marcus continued, "we operate under very specific guidelines. Discretion is paramount. While we appreciate your dedication to providing for your family, breaches of trust cannot be tolerated. Even unintentional ones." The woman handed me a single sheet of paper. On it was a photograph of Lila playing in the park, smiling innocently. Beneath the image was a message typed in bold letters. "Your silence is her safety." Tears welled up in my eyes as dread consumed me. They weren't bluffing, they had already proven they'd stop at nothing to protect their secrets. If I wanted Lila to live a normal life, free from harm, I had no choice but to comply. A new beginning, or end? Over the following days, I lived in constant fear, unsure when or where Kane's influence might strike next. To appease them, I signed additional paperwork agreeing to stricter terms of confidentiality. In exchange, they promised to leave my family alone. Whether they intended to keep that promise remained uncertain. Despite their assurances, paranoia became my constant companion. I avoided discussing my past experiences with anyone, including Kathy, fearing even casual conversations might attract unwanted attention. Nights turned restless, plagued by nightmares of body bags and shadowy figures lurking in the darkness. But amidst the chaos, one thought kept me grounded: Lila. She deserved better, a future untainted by the horrors I'd stumbled upon. Protecting her meant swallowing my pride, burying my guilt, and accepting the reality that some battles couldn't be won. At least, not alone. As the cherry blossoms bloomed along 4th Avenue, I took Lila to see them, fulfilling the mysterious man's suggestion. Watching her laugh and dance among the petals brought fleeting peace to my soul. For now, she was safe. And for now, that was enough. Yet deep down, I knew this wasn't truly over. Kane's tendrils stretched far beyond the confines of its walls, reaching into lives like mine with ruthless precision. Someday, perhaps, justice would find its way to them. Until then, all I could do was endure, and pray.